The lights dimmed across the grand ballroom, the air thick with the fragrance of money, pride, and polished marble. Laughter floated like champagne bubbles, but beneath it all pulsed a quiet tension. At the center of the glittering chaos stood the billionaire CEO whose every move commanded attention. He was ruthless in the boardroom, feared by rivals, and envied by men who thought wealth could fill the voids in their hearts. Tonight, he was bored of the same faces, the same flattery, and the same shallow music that played just to please him. But that was before the stage curtain drew back, revealing a man no one had expected. He's tired yet determined. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable night and the story that changed 2 lives forever, please don't forget to, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that heals even the coldest hearts. The crowd murmured as he stepped onto the stage. His shirt was ironed but faded, his shoes worn, and his violin case bore scratches that told of years spent chasing survival instead of dreams. He wasn't part of the high society musicians usually handpicked for Aiden's events. In fact, no one knew where he came from or how he ended up on the list. But when the young event organizer stammered that the original performer had cancelled last minute, and this man had volunteered at the door saying he just wanted a chance, Aiden had smirked with that trademark arrogance and said the words that would soon come back to haunt him. Other words were meant as a joke, an icy, mocking challenge thrown into the air. The guests laughed, the kind of laughter that cuts through dignity like glass. Ethan said nothing, just nodded once and lifted his bow. Then, silence. The first note sang through the ballroom like the breath of something divine. It wasn't just music, it was pain woven into melody, grief turned into gold. The room fell still, the laughter dying mid-echo. The violin cried, trembled, and soared as if each sound carried the heartbeat of a man who had lost everything and still dared to hope. Aiden's smirk froze. For the first time in years, the CEO who conquered everything money could buy felt small, almost human. Ethan's music told a story no one could see, of a woman once loved and lost, of nights spent rocking a baby to sleep with empty pockets, of hunger hidden behind lullabies. Each note whispered her name, Lila, his late wife, gone too soon from a sickness that mercy forgot. His music wasn't for fame, nor for the wealthy who applauded beauty without knowing what it cost. It was for her. And for the little girl waiting in a cheap motel room with a cracked window and a smile that still believed her father was a hero. When the last note faded, there was no applause. Just silence so thick it pressed against the walls. Then, one by one, people stood, some with tears, others with trembling lips. Ethan bowed once, quietly, then turned to leave. But Aiden's voice stopped him. That night, the billionaire who owned skyscrapers in silence followed the man with nothing out into the cold. Aiden found him behind the building, sitting on the curb, tightening the old violin strings as if they were his lifeline. For a moment, Aiden didn't know what to say. His world had always been measured in profits and perfection, but the sound of that violin had undone something in him he didn't know could break. Through the weeks that followed, Aiden couldn't forget him. He found out Ethan played on the streets sometimes, earning coins to pay rent and feed his daughter who had inherited her mother's golden curls and her father's quiet eyes. Aiden had power, but Ethan had soul, and for once, Aiden envied someone poorer than him. He told his assistant to find the man, and soon, Ethan was standing once again in the CEO's office, clutching his violin like a shield. Aiden offered him a deal: play privately for his company's anniversary gala. The pay would cover months of rent, medical bills, and school fees. Ethan hesitated, wary of the man who once mocked him, but Mia's smile that morning gave him courage. He agreed. In the days that followed, Ethan's presence in Aiden's world became a quiet storm. The staff who feared the CEO began to notice changes, small, startling changes. The man who once barked orders now paused to listen when the janitor spoke. The one who prided himself on control now stood by the window, lost in thought whenever Ethan rehearsed in the lobby. Music softened his edges, peeling away layers of arrogance to reveal a man who'd forgotten how to feel. Ethan, too, changed. He began to trust again, little by little. He shared stories of Lila, how she used to play piano while he composed on his violin, how their dream was to open a small music school for children who couldn't afford lessons. When she died, that dream died too. But every time he played for Aiden, that dream flickered back to life. Aiden found himself spending more time with Ethan's daughter, Mia, than in his board meetings. The little girl had a way of melting through walls even money couldn't buy. She called him Mr. Ice King the first day they met, and somehow, he didn't mind. She would sit at his desk, drawing crayon versions of his skyscrapers, and tell him he needed more flowers in his buildings because flowers make people happy. Aiden laughed, really laughed, and it startled everyone, including himself, but not all hearts soften easily. Rumors began swirling among investors and board members that Aiden was losing his focus, distracted by a street musician. When Ethan overheard them mocking Aiden in the corridor, something broke in him. He packed his violin case, left a note of apology, and disappeared with Mia before dawn. Aiden found the note on his desk that morning. The ink was smudged from a tear. "You gave me dignity, and I'll never forget it. But your world isn't made for people like us. Thank you for letting me believe again, even just for a while." The letter ended with a sketch drawn by Mia, a picture of all three of them standing under a big tree, smiling. That day, Aiden canceled all his meetings, ignored all calls, and drove for hours, searching through the city until nightfall. He found Ethan where it all began, on the same street corner where he first heard him play. The violinist.